The ChatGPT strawberry model is here. The strawberry model is the code name for the next version of ChatGPT, or the next model of ChatGPT. And to get it, you need to go up to where the models are here, and you'll see there's a 01 preview and an 01 mini. The 01 preview is the full version, and the mini is kind of a faster version of this. The thing about the strawberry model is that it actually thinks more, so it takes more time to do answers. So it's supposed to be better for different math problems, and it's supposed to be better for coding and just in general thinking longer. But the really cool thing, as we'll see, is that it actually will show you the logic that it went through to figure something out. So we're going to go with the 01 preview, the full model, the best model, and we're gonna ask a couple of things here. So the first thing is let's go figure out the depth of field for a 100 millimeter lens focused at 6 feet at f2.8. So we'll let that figure it out, and it's going to take a little bit, and it's thinking now, and it's going through the steps, and it's calculating these different thing. The nice thing about this is, even if it's wrong, we can go through and see what logic it used and figure out where it went wrong. All right, we got a network error at the very end, but it did finish, and it said the answer is approximately 2.15 inches of depth of field when focused at 6 feet with a 100 millimeter lens at f2.8, and that's actually correct, assuming that there are a few other things that can kind of change the answer to that slightly about lenses, but that's a good answer. When I ran it again, it said approximately 2 inches. The two are very close, but you can see here it actually goes through the logic that it went through to figure it out, and its assumptions in here. So that makes it easier to check it. Depth of field is actually a relatively complex equation to figure out, but it did well. It got it. When I went to a calculator on the internet to calculate the same thing, I got 2.16, and like I said, that can vary slightly anyway, depending on what camera or what lens brand you're using, and so it varies slightly, and so this is a very good answer for it. And it answered consistently. I did it again, and it said approximately 2 inches. So that's a very good answer, as I said. So the other thing that we can do is we can have it programmed. This is a good model to use for programming. You probably don't want to use this model for everything because it is a bit slower. So, like for instance, it took 34 seconds to calculate it right here. Let's see, the other times that I ran it, it took 43 seconds one time, and it took 26 seconds the other time, so it's thinking a while. But the other thing that's interesting about this is you can actually click here, and it will tell you, it will go even into more depth, calculating depth of field, calculating hyperfocus, coordinating measurements, converting and calculating. So it breaks down the whole logic that it went through to figure out the problem, which is good. So the other thing we can do is we can go here and we can ask it to write a program for us. So I'm going to have it write a Tic-Tac-Toe program really quickly. So it writes the program, and it actually tells us how to run it. So I've actually saved the code to a file, and it's a Python file. So we're going to run the Python file right now and see how it works. So I'm going to say I want to be X. Yes, I'm ready to go. Position, let's go position 1, and let's go 2. All right. So I'm playing both sides on this. So this is a game, I guess. It wrote it so the two people would be playing it. So there's no logic in this game where it's actually figuring it out the way it wrote it. And so I'm going to go 3. But you can see the basic program works. The basic interface does it. It'd be interesting to test this out on more complicated code examples, but it's supposed to be able to handle more complicated programming tasks now, because it will take the time to think about it. So it will be interesting to test it and see how it improves in the next versions this is a preview version, you have to remember as well. So we go back to our code, and it actually gives us example gameplay here. It tells us how to play it and the controls and everything. And if we scroll back up to the top again, this caret here will tell us the steps that it went through, the steps that it went through to reason it out. And so this is really good if you're asking in any question where you want to see what the logic is that it went through to figure it out. And sometimes you just want to see how something is figured out. So this could be a very good learning tool too, because you could give it a problem and then you could go back, see how it did it, and you can learn from the way that it's done it and broken it down. So now we're going to give it another example. I'm going to have it list the top 5 guitarists of all times. So now I'm going to do another example. I'm going to have it list the top 5 guitarists of all times. And so it gives us a list of the top 5, or what it considers the top 5. And it thinks about it, or it actually tells us a little bit about each guitarist and what they're known for. Now, if we go back up here to the caret again. So it says here, I'm realizing that the ranking is subjective, and up to October 2023, guitarists like Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton are often celebrated for their unique styles and contributions to music. And so it gives you the logic of how it picked these. And one of the nice things about that is if you can see the logic of the way it picked something or why it picked something, it gives you the ability to go back and rephrase your question, like depending on, for example, if it's picking popular guitar or rock guitarists or classical guitarists. So you can narrow down what you want so that you get the list that you want. So it may include people that you don't want in there, or it may not include some people that you want in there, and you can of course always ask it why it did that, but being able to see the logic of what it did or how it did it enables you to write better prompts and ask better questions. So here are a few examples of how the new model works really well. Like I said, it's a slower model. It only took 6 seconds for this question, which is not a lot, but it would have probably answered it even a little bit faster on the 4.0 model. And so that's something to take into consideration. You might not want to use this model for everything because it's going to take longer to think about things. So it can take up to a minute or more to think about these questions, depending on the complexity of